nothing is ever achieved in the way to freedom, which is freedom from pain and suffering and misery and unhappiness, without practical attention. If you go for these Eastern masters without the practical attention, you go for that and what they say without the making love, then you're going to miss half of your life. You might realize a so-called reflection of God, a self-realization of God in inner space where it all happens. But what's the good of that if you can't live your life here intelligently? What's the good of that if you've got to be celibate? If you've got to avoid man and woman? If you've got to make a problem of every avenue of your life, mother, father, and all those things, because you can't see that it is not right for another human being to live their life through you? Trouble is, you get attachment and love mixed up, and the whole of the human race has attachment and love mixed up. They can't tell the difference between it, because love begins with love and gratitude for the source of the Ganges. Only the Western people go up, follow it up. I saw it in a documentary the other day. Some Western guy travelling up the Ganges to find the source of the Ganges. I mean, unless the people, the Indian people, live up there, they don't care less, as long as the river keeps flowing. But the Western way is to always find out the source of every material thing, except the source of their own unhappiness. The river flows. It's flowing now. It brings all its bounty and its goodness now. And if I have to tell you where your life is unhappy, well then, I'm not going to do it anymore. I haven't got the time. You're intelligent enough to know. And you've got enough books and tapes. I don't know how many books and tapes and hundreds of books and tapes I've got over there dealing with every aspect of life. And I still read about scientists calling this life. Someone just gave me something from scientific people, which I'm very pleased to have received, in which they keep talking about life, that living is life. I mean, it's a fundamental error. How can I communicate to people that think that living is life? I can't, to start with. You're on the wrong track. Living is death. Everybody here dies. Everybody has their leg cut off, or something wrong with them, or gets cancer, or some other horrible disease. There's no limit to how many diseases we get. It's only limited by the number of doctors and therapists. As the doctors and therapists keep coming, so the diseases keep coming. They keep finding new diseases all the time. Doesn't matter what's wrong with you. If you get a headache in your right side of your head, it's some new disease. Haven't you noticed this? The more doctors and scientists there are looking for it, the more they find. Look and you will find, not the truth, but look and you will find the complications of the human mind. And then there's got to be someone to explain it. Now, so intelligence is being able to see the fact. Now, what is your main problem? I'll ask someone who's new here. What's your main problem, sir?
I don't have a main problem at the moment.
You don't have a main problem?
No.
You don't have a main problem?
No, I'm quite happy as I am.
No, I'm not asking you if you're happy as you are. I'm saying, what's your problem? Have you got one?
I don't feel that I have a problem, Barry.
Okay, good. Righto. Now, you can hold that for a minute, thanks. Now, we're all saying we don't have a problem. We all keep saying, I don't have a problem. Where's the intelligence? Everybody's got a problem. Until you can say, I live in paradise, and you can inspect my life and you will find it is paradise. Anyone who came into my life would see I live in paradise. I don't have a problem at all, because in actual fact, you can look into my physical life. I've got a lovely motor car. Not one of those Rolls Royces or anything like that. Just an ordinary motor car, but a very nice one. I've got a lovely home. I've got 5 acres of country around me. I've got pure water off the roof. I've got cows, a couple of cows and a couple of calves. I've got the frogs that crying out a bit thirsty just now because of the drought, but they're there. I live with a lovely woman who loves me and who loves God. That's the important thing. She loves God first. She loves me as the reflection of God. But she loves God first. And when I die, she will not suffer. That's if she's intelligent. I have everything. I have all you people in front of me to speak to. I don't have a problem in the world. And I don't have a problem on earth. No, I don't have any. If you think just because I got cancer it's a problem, it's not a problem at all. It's just a fact. Pain, progression of pain, the easing of the pain from the sixth dimension by the grace of the wonder of the Most High, the most wonderful Creator. I don't have to get suffering pain like they had to 300 years ago. I'm most blessed, and I'm looked after by my wonderful woman and the people around me who love me. Well, what's the difference between me and you? Where's your life so terrible? Where is it? Well, if you start looking inside your body, inside your chest or your stomach, you will find all the problems in the world. Not just yours, but you'll be worried about the starving people in India or Africa. Because there's no end to it. You run out of your own problems, you start making problems of what other people have got to put up with, which you don't have to. Because it's their life, not yours. You're the only eye in the universe. Have you got that message yet, please? Can we get the responsibility, can we possibly sheet the responsibility home to here? I am the center of the universe for me. I am responsible for it all. And I have no problems. If you don't get your life right, then you will have problems, and you'll make excuses that I'm quite happy now. Well, that's not the point. Do you have the intelligence to see your problem and to do something about it? Practical. Practical. Oh, I don't have a woman, say. Say that was a man's problem. I don't have a woman. Why don't you have a woman? Because you don't love. Because you're always looking to get something from woman instead of just loving. And unless you love without trying to get, you can't love. Because love's not a getting. Love might be a receiving, but it's certainly not a getting. So let's get the responsibility back here where it belongs. I am responsible. I'm responsible for my life here. As Barry Long's life, I am responsible for it. I'm responsible for anything that goes wrong in it that would possibly disturb Barry Long. I am responsible for it. So what's so different about you and me then? You are responsible for your problem, for your present problem. You did it. You made the mistakes that brought it about. Like Barry Long made the mistakes that brought whatever he had to go through about. But eventually, through his self-knowledge, he got it right. And now he endeavours to pass on to you the truth, that responsibility is here in this body listening to these words. I wanted to talk about love, but it's very difficult when you don't get the first message. To love, you have to start loving. And to start loving, you have to stop thinking. You have to walk around in your senses. You have to actually walk around in what you've got, which everyone is trying to get rid of. Everyone's looking for some heaven, some God. Nobody is looking just to be simply and purely in their senses. And I can tell you that that's the only truth here. To have the intelligence to be in my senses. If I walk around thinking, ruminating, you know, ruminate comes from a ruminant is a cow that chews its cud and goes over all the old stuff. Ruminating, emotionally ruminating, which is a sort of trance-like state that most people are in. If I go around like that, ruminating and thinking, I'm not in my senses. I'm in the past. And the senses are now. I see now. I hear now. I have the sensation of my body now. Well, is this a lie? Or what do you think all the masters that you've ever been to have tried to tell you? What do you think they've been trying to tell you? And of course they go on with bullshit, like someone wrote to me about TM, Maharishi Mahesh Maghi, whatever his name is, and his endeavour, and for such an intelligent man, it is so unintelligent what he spreads around. They're all racing around on cushions trying to levitate. Well, how can I counter such stupidity? And of course, because it suggests they can get something, they can get some city or miracle-working power, they're all trying like mad to levitate. How can I possibly compete with such fantastic bullshit? Well, then we get a lady who's a guru in England or somewhere, who goes to an Indian master, and she sits outside his door, and she has all sorts of fiery furnaces. She goes through the furnace, I think she called it, furnace, sitting outside his door. Meanwhile, he's in there with his 2 or 3 kids, getting on with his life, you know, probably stuffing himself with rice and having a few arguments with the woman, you know, but not too many, because the woman's got to do as they're told there. And, you know, the kids playing up here and there, wanting to be Western, but he's dealing with all that. He has no problem, because he's a master. She has a problem. She's going through the fire. I forget what the book's called. It's called Fire or something. Huh? Huh? No, Chasm of Fire, no.
Daughter of Fire.
Daughter of Fire. Now let me tell you what she went through. She's sitting outside his door. He's got the power of the master because he's just doing what he's doing, you know. He's not wanting anything. He just doesn't talk to her, ignores her most of the time. What is the fire that she's going through? Her own sexuality. She's just bursting somewhere inside to express her sexuality because he's a man. She's getting the love of God mixed up with the love of man or the love of her own sexuality. So it's a fire. Your sexuality is a fire. It will burn you. It will burn you so you're frightened of it. You're very careful of your sexuality because it might suck you in and you'll get burnt. And so she got burnt, and she sat there, at least she sat there, and now she gives this bullshit that she went through a fire that was some spiritual fire. Well, sexual fire is spiritual. That's what it's for. That's the only fire. What's the hell that you're going to go through? It's your sexuality that you're going to go through. That's all. And if you try to suppress it, then that fire, that sexuality is going to come up in some other area of your life, where your child will get badly injured, where your lover will leave you and break your heart. Something will happen because you can't suppress your sexuality, but you can keep running from it. But to face it in that way is no way to do it. You have to love. You have to love a man if you're a woman, and you have to love a woman if you're a man. That's the best way of facing your sexuality. Nothing is harder than the relationship between man and woman. Nothing is more difficult. And just because you've found a partner and everything's hunky-dory and going okay now, be very careful. Because it is the way of the human mind to become familiar and casual in a relationship. And to stop acknowledging, as it did to begin with, I love you, I love the way you smile, I love to hold your hand, I love to walk with you, I love to have breakfast with you. When does that stop? As soon as that stops, out you go. You're casual, you're familiar, you become a family man and a family woman, and you start putting the kid between you and your lover. Someone's got to speak to you. I'm not going to give you all this holiness stuff. I give you the holiness stuff. I tell you about the love of God, and I demonstrate it. There is nothing like the love of God, the unknown, the mystery. It's a mystery. It must always remain a mystery. It's a mystery to me, and I'm probably one of the most enlightened beings on this earth. It's a mystery to me, and I love the mystery. And I don't want to solve it, thank you. I'm not a bloody stupid scientist. I love the mystery. I love it because it is a mystery. It's the wonder and glory of this existence, which is only short-lived indeed. But is that the end of it? Or is it a great cycle of life and death, and that this is all there is? This is where it appears. This is where everything appears here. This is where the stupid appear. This is where the ignorant appear. This is where the rapists appear. This is where they all come together here and walk around in clearly ordinary bodies just like you and me. This is where it all comes together. This is where the waterfall is, and it all falls into bodies, and the waterfall's there, and this is the lagoon that catches it all. All together. The holy and the unholy. The wicked and the rest of it. Every one of us here. And the only escape is to be intelligent. I think if you open my knowing yourself, I speak of the robotic. That we're robots until we're not. And I tell you the way humanity works, being irresponsible, is robotic. And it's all right, it ends anyway. You end up dying. It doesn't take you long to die. But is that what you want? Is that your motivation inside of you? Is that your motivation, or have you got a vaster motivation that I just need to love, I need to give, I need to be? Well, that's what I'm talking about here. The way to do that is to be responsible, to know what your problem is. Do you want me to tell you your problem? All I got to do is ask you, are you looking at your problem? Because I know you've got it there. And all you can ever do is look at it and face it. And I've told you many, many times before, and I'll say it again here, that your problem is the guardian of the threshold. An old occult saying of thousands of years, occult saying, the guardian of the threshold. But nobody ever really explained it. Nobody really explained it. The guy that used it a lot never explained it. He went on with a lot of bullshit about it, but I know he knew what it was, but he couldn't put it into words. I've forgotten his name. He invented the Steiner School, I think it was. The guardian of the threshold is your own problem, the big one. Not those little fellows running around distracting you from the big one. Your main problem. There it is. I'm looking at it now. And so are you, or you should be. Because that's an energetic thing, just like a closed door. But really, it's an entity. It's your own entity. You made it. It's yourself. And now it forms a barrier between where you are now and where you are motivated by everything inside of you to go deeper, deeper into the more profound levels of what you are. And here's this guardian, this demon. Oh, it's a demon, all right, because its name is yourself and you made it. It's emotional. It's so emotionally disturbing that as soon as you look at it, you start to go like this, beating. Sweat can come, anything can come, because you are looking at the demon of yourself, your irresponsibility in not facing the problem, not being responsible for your own problem, but running from it into the many choices that the complication of modern life offers. So many choices. You have to pass through. You have to pass through this guardian, and he or she will not let you through, because you have to be fine enough to go between this terrible vibration that it is. You have to be fine enough, intelligent enough to go through it. Then you pass into a new level of intelligence, of profundity. But if you don't face that problem, it just festers there and makes more problems, and you never get free. Except that now and again you have the sense of life, beautiful, uncontaminated life, which is the very animation of your body that cannot be suppressed, because it is made by the great God, the great intelligence, the great architect of it all. And that rises in you when you say, it's all right, it's all right. But it's not all right all the time, is it? Not while that problem's there. You have to face it, get fine enough, intelligent enough, by all the ways that we've talked about here, using what is most applicable to you, what you've really seen is right for you, using that to become more intelligent so that you can pass through the problem. And as you do that, the circumstances of your life will change, and where the problem will disappear. It'll either be solved immediately, or everyone concerned with it will die except you. Something will happen. Because everything is run by intelligence here. And that's because the source of it all is the great intelligence of the great creator, the great God, that doesn't create anything because it is far too intelligent to even create anything, but by its very being, if you can use that word, creates everything by doing nothing. A magnificent mystery. So that's what your problem is. No red herrings, please. No several. Don't come at me with that unintelligent statement. I got so many problems. Why can't you be honest and nail the big one? Because you've all got one big one in your living life. And it's nothing to do with trying to find God. It's nothing to do with trying to be enlightened, trying to be surrendered. It's got nothing to do with that. What it is to do with is becoming intelligent enough to see the problem, face it, and do what you can practically about it. And otherwise, when you can't do anything more practically about it, is to see it and live with the problem every day intelligently without thinking about it. But as you are a robot of thought until you're not, you will think about the problem and therefore lose the power. For thought is the greatest release of detention that all humanity has. That's why they're always busy at it. Thinking, working out, trying to work things out. There's nothing to work out. You're going to die. Just a matter of time when you're going to die. You can't work that out. You can't even believe the doctors. Because life decides when that body dies. So am I communicating this to you? Good. Just know that you are being more intelligent, but the responsibility is here to see what is your main problem. You just have to see it. You don't have to do anything about it. That's the wonderful thing about intelligence. You see, you are not seeing your main problem. You are facing it without flinching and without trying to run away. You keep looking at it, day in and day out. Every morning you look at it. Every lunchtime you look at it. 2 o'clock you look at it. You look at it and you look at it. You do not flinch. You do not run away, as horrific as it is, because it is telling you what is likely to happen. Now, if ever you are in the midst of smoking, you know you're smoking and you're very happy with smoking and you're very pleased with it. If ever you have to see you are shown by your intelligence that it's going to be taken from you, this smoking, something will grip you inside like that. Oh no, oh no, 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 no. That's what happens with addiction. We're all addicted to our problem. Oh no. Because the intelligence will reflect that this is going to be taken from you, what your main problem is. But it's not the main problem that you're worried about being taken from you. It's the pain that you have to go through to get rid of it. That's what makes you flinch and look away. But it's all right, because the intelligence will do the job for you. But you have to be courageous enough to see what it entails without flinching. Because that's what it's going to entail, what you fear most. That's what it's going to entail. But you are man or woman enough to do it. So let's get on with it. Be intelligent. And the intelligence will do it for you. Has anyone got any questions to ask, please? Yes, down to this gentleman round the front here, and I'll come to you, madam.
I listened to the new tape, Responsible for Love, I think
Yes.
it was called, this morning. And this with the female in the woman. When you see the female in the woman, I think I have seen that in my girlfriend back home. And the question is, can a woman love God before everything without knowing it?
And not really. I think in some way she would express that love of the unknown, of the source, or of God. God's another word for all those, isn't it? Unknown. She would express it in some way in her life. She'd have to express it some way. How does she express it so that you can even ask the question?
Yeah.
How do you gain that?
You have said
expression?
that if a relationship should last, both have to love God before
Each
anything.
other, yes.
Yes. And think she does that. But she know about very long, but I know she don't understand when I say this to her. But she act like she because I understand it.
Well, then you must be seeing the source of the female in her. You are seeing that because that is the God in her, the true female that loves that, which is we call God for the want of another word, is.
Yeah. So the answer is that she just is the female.
Well, you're a very fortunate man. So how does she live her life then? Could I just ask you out of a matter of interest?
Yeah, she's in a way she just is very independent, no problems. I used to say that she is more spiritual than she knows.
Yes, that's quite possible. Some people are more spiritual than they know, because you can't know you're spiritual. You can't know you're spiritual, you see. Like you can't know for long that you're in a warm bath. If you're in a warm bath, your body gradually gets the same warmth as the water, and the only way you can know you're warm in a warm bath, as you'll notice, is you move your body and you know you're in a warm bath. Isn't that true? Have you ever done that?
No, I used to take showers, but...
Well, I've lived in England where they only had baths there for a while, you know. It took a long time for them to get showers. And but anyway, I can tell you, if you ever sit in a warm bath, you have to move your body like that to know that it's still warm, because you get the contrast. When you are in the warm bath and you're the same temperature, you don't know it. So a really spiritual person can't know they're spiritual. And so that's what you're describing. But I'd be interested to know, when you say she's independent, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, there are of course problems, but she don't get any attention to the problems. She just live her life in a very smooth way.
Oh well, you're indeed fortunate.
Yeah.
What are the problems, may I ask?
Yeah, ex-husbands and my ex-wives and you know.
Well, they are problems, yeah. Anyway, you obviously love her very profoundly.
Oh, yeah.
As you see the female in her, because the female in any woman is God. And it's got nothing to do with the woman. The woman, as you've heard me say, is a product of time and experience. The female is that divine part of her which is now spontaneous and the thing that man adores in her. But the woman gets in the way of it often, very often, and doesn't allow the female to shine through. And same with man. The male in man is the product of time and experience, and that gets in the way of the man that he is expressing itself. Same thing. So woman, a product of time and experience. She thinks about the good times, she thinks about the bad times, she thinks about what happened to her when she was younger or when she yesterday. That's experience. And she's the product of that. And time, as she gets older, she sees her hair get starting to go grey, she sees she's starting to lose that what we regard as the female shape. And so she's the product of time and experience in as much as she's concerned about that. But the female's not concerned about that. But it's understandable that she gets concerned about it, because this is a world where everybody believes in appearances more than anything else. And man the same. He's a product of time and experience, all his conditioning. The male in him is, not the man. So, yes, okay, is that okay?
Yeah,
yes,
okay.
Good,
it's
thank you.
Very good tape.
Thank you.
Yeah.
There's a lady over here.
I have a big main problem. You talk about main problem. And I thought it's... I've been abused, sexual abused when I was a child. And for a while, for a couple of years, I have started to take care of myself and my family and stop drinking and everything. I have a very dysfunctional family, before. My man was alcoholic and everything. And now it's going to be very good for us. We have keep coming closer, my mom and...
Are you still with the father of your children?
No, we divorced.
He's gone?
Yeah.
Finished?
No, he had the children
Access.
1 week and I have it 1 week.
Yes, okay.
And now when I have grown up a bit, because I go in AA in Sweden.
Yes.
And they have...
and did you follow him? He was an alcoholic when you met him?
I don't think so, but he was. But, I think it was usually to go out that...
were you an alcoholic before you met him?
Yeah, I think so.
So we attract the same. So often we attract the same. Yeah.
But now I have started to think, how you saying, I can be more stable. And I have started to pray and I pleasant every morning because I feel much better when I have done before. I have panic attacks and everything.
Yes, I understand.
And now I have a good love relation. The first time in my 35 years I have a man who I allowed to teach me like this, And I have always allowed people to do things with me. And I go like whoops.
Yes, I understand. Backwards and forwards. Yeah.
Every time. And I feel I'm so ugly and everything. And now I have started to have a very good relation with the most people. I have close people, but they are my friends and everything feels good. But sometimes the fucking thinking in my head, it's calm and I put myself down again. And it's so hard. I don't know what I can do.
Well, first of all, you're here.
Yeah,
you're here to listen to what I have to say and then to choose something that I have to say that is the truth for you and to go and live it. Now, thinking is a disease only of the human race. It is a disease here. It's like alcoholism. Thinking is a disease. And so we have to learn how to stop it. I've got a tape over there, how to stop thinking.
I'm listening.
You're listening to it? That's only a way. I don't know. The way to stop thinking is to be grateful for your life.
Yeah.
Now, you said that you have a big problem. Is this the one, thinking?
Yeah.
Okay. So have you got rid of this dreadful pressure of having been sexually assaulted when you were a child? Do you still believe in that? Do you still relate to that?
No, but it's... How can I say? No, when I have been here, I have remembered a lot of things. Because before I stopped drinking and used drugs, I don't remember... I only remember one picture. Only one. But now when I've been with my friends here and listening at you, even if I'm not so good in English, I feel, when you say something, I feel it works.
Yes.
And I have remembered more. You understand? I have remembered more. Couple of times he has used me.
Used you or
abused me.
Abused you.
Yeah.
You remember it more.
Yeah.
Well, things become clearer because you're not covering it over so much with your emotions, because that's why you go to drink. Drink covers it over. Alcoholism covers it over. The emotions cover it over. You get angry or something about it, covers it over. When you come here, you are learning to be more intelligent, because you're practicing, you're the intelligence here. And when you're more intelligent, you see things more clearly. And what I've asked earlier, in a case like yours where you were sexually abused, I trust you heard me that this, was it a man or a woman that abused you?
A man.
A man. Now, I trust that you've heard what I've said about man. A man is sex possessed. All men, without exception, are sex possessed. A woman is not sex possessed until man puts sexual possession into her by excitement and misleading her. He puts it into her, then she becomes dependent on sexual excitement because he's taught her how to be sexually excited, and what she really wants is love, and he's not interested in love, I can tell you now. You know that. Unless he is a different sort of man who has learnt something about loving instead of just sexing. And that's very rare, but it does happen, of course. And one of the things for you to know is that every man is this way unless he's not. So it's possible for so many women that I've had in front of me over the years, so many women have been sexually abused. It's the tip of the iceberg, what we hear about. Man is at it everywhere. Abusing, masturbating, fantasizing, going to sex shops, going to all the brothels. There's brothels all over the Gold Coast here. There's brothels all over Melbourne, brothels all over Sydney. There's brothels everywhere. Who's going to them? Your lover, your brother, your father, your uncle. Someone's going to them. But we all just forget that. They open them, we got the latest one up here, the application for 30 girls to work 7 days a week with days off, I suppose, for periods and those sort of things perhaps, and all the rest of it, and 7 days a week. You can imagine how many thousands are going to go through there. But who are these thousands? That's only one brothel. I mean, we don't look at these things, do we? We think that's all right. Got nothing to do with me. You want to be sure? You can't be sure, can you? Because man's such a cunning sexual demon. Well, a man should know that until he changes, he is a sexual demon. Well, you've got to know that. You have to know that, man. And that is the beginning of the change in you. When you know that this is possible in all of us, it is potential in us. What we all get up to when nobody's looking. But once you start to see that this is in us, that's the beginning of change. And especially when you start to love a woman instead of just sexing her up and satisfying your sexual drive. That's when you start to change. And that's what woman's provided for in relationship, so that you can learn to love her. Now, it's true that she's not lovable. In so many cases, she's just not lovable. And so, to begin with, most of our relationships begin with sexual attraction. Because remember, the first imperative is to populate the earth. And so it doesn't matter, that imperative doesn't care whether you love or not. It just bring the two bodies together, and man will make sure, some way or other, that he populates the earth. And then woman gets the hankering to have children, which are going to cause her great pain. But then she's got to fulfill the first imperative, which is to populate the earth. Not every woman has babies, but most do, and most want them. And no one sees that they're the cause of most of the pain on earth. For if I hadn't been born, I wouldn't have any pain, ever. Still, that's another area, isn't it? That's another area, we can't go into that. But you've got to see the principle of it, that everything here suffers. You suffered. Did you think your child's going to escape? Oh, they'll get through. Yes, they'll get through. No matter what you do, though, they're going to have their share of suffering. So what's the other imperative? That's the other imperative, is the great magnet of the source beyond our appearances that makes us endeavour to be better people. What makes us do this? It is this great magnet that you can call God or you can call love. And so you've got to begin loving more. Now, what is love? What's love in your relationship? I'm going to define love for you in the first instance. There's many instances of it, many degrees of it, and many aspects of it. But let's start with something that's practical, because we must always be practical in regard to love or truth or death or anything. You've got to be practical. The first aspect of love in a partnership is to acknowledge the good or the right in the partner. To acknowledge what you enjoy in the partner. Not just to say, oh, you know I love you, of course I love you. That doesn't work. It works for you who's saying it, because we all know you love her. But does she know you love her? You've got to keep telling her that you love her. As someone said about affection, you've got to be affectionate to woman. She's a different creature to us. We're like a big hammer. That's how we work, with the hammer. She's not like that. She's subtle. Unless man's got at her and made her self-doubtful, more self-doubtful than she normally is in this terrible existence. She's more subtle. She's more like the flower. And she needs watering, and water for her is affection and love and acknowledgement. And anyway, what are you doing with her? What are you there in a partnership for if she's not worthy of affection? If she's not worthy of acknowledgement of why you love being with her? Not just now, not just after the honeymoon, come home and get busy with the work and the mortgage. That doesn't work for me. You've got to keep acknowledging her, or the female will disappear. She'll wilt. And you'll wilt because she won't want to make love with you, or she won't give you everything that she's got. She just goes through the motions. And that'll make you unhappy psychically, because you won't be getting that most precious thing that woman can give you, which is the female in her, the essence of the flower. So love begins with acknowledgement. And there's no good saying that you don't believe in that, because every woman will tell you that. Is that true? The
Yes.
lady that's just been speaking the question, is that
Yes.
true?
Thank you very much.
Yes, that's true. But man has got to hear it, hasn't he? He's got to do it, not just hear it. Of course I love you, of course I love you. That's not good enough.
No.
And then he's got to tell her, because she thrives on affection. And I don't mean lovey-dovey stuff. I mean, why are you with her? If it's worth being with her, then why are you with her? Because I enjoy the smell of her, because I just enjoy the presence of her. Well, say, I enjoy your presence. And if in the period time she's utterly intolerable, then you'll have to say, well, look, I love you, and I think it's beautiful, and I know that behind all this there's that misunderstanding that goes on with this time. I love you. I just want you to know I love you. And it's difficult for us both at this time, I understand, but I love you. You just got to, and you've got to be more physically close to her, not necessarily making love with her. You've got to sort of cuddle her at that time. And I know it can be very difficult, because if she's going through this psychic change, then you're going to be repulsed by that, because it's emotion. And where I come from, it's simply woman's psychic, autonomous, psychic repulsion of man's treatment of her over the millennia, thousands of years of his treatment of her, in which he's used her and abused her, done everything to her, which he wouldn't even do to one of his cows or his goats. He's done to woman. And there's a psychic realm in there in which woman is offended by what man has done to her. And where I come from in the period time, that comes out often as very, very revengeful, hateful stuff, even though sometimes in the midst of it she says, I love you. But how crazy is that for a statement, eh? Nobody's ever said it before. But then you hear lots of things here from me. The truth of human behaviour. So, yes, another question, please, from someone.
It seems that every single moment of our lives is like led by God, and even in the smallest of things, that, like, I wonder, is there really any true free will? It seems like there's this magnet that wants us to become self-realized. And it seems that every single thing that happens is like, there's like you could put meaning to it on the stairway to God.
Yes, that's right. So, first of all, every single moment is determined where I come from by my self-knowledge. So, when it's determined by your self-knowledge, which is God, which is the same as God, which directs your paths, eventually you become utterly and completely surrendered to the will of self-knowledge. You give up your own will, your own choices, your own wants, your own wishes. You give all that up.
The spoiler, you mean? You give up the spoiler.
Yeah, but you were talking about self-will, I think.
Right.
The self-will is the spoiler. That's what makes everybody's life a mess. When you have realized God, or this whatever you're talking about as God, sufficiently, you are one with the will of that. And that will is everything that happens in your life, is self-direction. I decide to do that. I decide to do this. I choose that. I choose that. Whereas the divine will, what is called the divine will, surrendering to the divine will, is every moment of your life. And when you're surrendered to that, you're surrendered to God.
Right, but it just seems that even with the self-will, it's just all perfect, because that's exactly where you're at to get closer to God.
Well, that's where you're at, but that's where you've got problems from self-will and self-choices.
Yeah.
That creates the problems.
But the problems are the solutions, it seems. It seems like the problems, they're just showing you exactly who you are and who you are not.
Well, that is a way of looking at it, yeah, but it's better eventually to not have that, because that's a result of choices.
It's suffering.
Yeah, it's suffering. And who wants suffering? Nobody in their right senses wants suffering. The only way to avoid suffering is to surrender to the will that's behind every moment of your life. Then you don't have any more suffering.
And with that suffering, but it seems that there's like a collective suffering of, let's say, like wars and people getting gang raped and, killed and this whole thing. It seems like, is that, like, I guess, is like a collective?
Only if you want it. Now, you're not being gang raped. You're not at war and knowing the ravages of war now.
Right.
So if you extend yourself over and identify with situations elsewhere so that you're horrified or something else about those situations, then you are identified with them and they will affect you. Whereas that's not the truth. The truth is only where your body is now. At any moment, that's the only truth. There's no truth in anything that you're not affected by. But if you were affected, if you were the father or mother of one of the children who were gang raped or something, just to use your example, then you are affected, more or less, more so than anyone watching the television. Someone watching the television is sheer identification with the situation, which is not concerning them, really. But that's how modern technology is introduced to all these things, these horrific things, which we can identify, and that's because of choices and wanting to be identified with something other than now. Isn't it? So you're right. Self-will brings all the problems through which we have to face, which somehow or other, when we're intelligent enough to say, I don't want any more of these problems, we give up the cause of those problems, which is my own self-will, my own trying to direct my life. While I try to direct my life, I make all the errors that we've all made. But when I give up directing my life, that life is taken over by what the will to God.
But it also seems that it's all in God's will, like
well,
because of the magnet pulling you towards God. It just seems that it's in God's will that we endeavor to make these mistakes so that we get closer to God.
It is absolutely true that God is responsible for everything. God has given man what is called his free will. That means his selfishness. God has allowed man his selfishness. It's God that's done it, and man that perpetuate this terrible suffering through exercising his God-given gift of free will. Now, it's a God-given gift, his free will, because as he becomes more intelligent, he starts to say, I don't want to suffer anymore. And it takes a great deal of intelligence, very swift intelligence, to say, I don't want to suffer anymore. People say it, but they don't mean it. They keep making the same mistakes. That's no good. You have to see what the cause of the suffering is, my own self-will, and say, I'm not making any more decisions, which I think I've talked about decisions here. You give up making decisions. Now that's very, very difficult when we are habitually making decisions to suddenly say, well, I'm giving up making decisions. You can't do it, of course. But you can gradually do it, because when you are one with the divine will, you don't make decisions anymore. You just do as you do. And that's what it's all about, giving up your God-given right to think, to worry, to suffer, if you want it, until you're intelligent enough to say, I don't want it anymore. And so you give up your humanity. And humanity is what? Humanity is a sorrowful, suffering congestion of weakened intelligence. So that's why I'm talking to you, isn't it? Getting you to see what you already know. You don't want to suffer, so if you don't want to suffer, stop making so many decisions. And only you know the decisions that you're making. Only you know it, because you're the only intelligence in this room, the only real intelligence. Okay? Yes, the lady behind you there.
I understand what you say about that you cannot identify with something that is happening in, let's say, right now, Europe or whatever country where you do not live and you are not there. But what happens if you live in a country where actually you see many of those things that you see on TV from here and are real? I mean, it's like you walk down the street and there you find a girl who has been raped. Or you walk down the street...
Yeah, but are you affected by that? If you're affected by it, then it is in your purview, it's in your area, if you're affected, if you're a relative or something, or if you see someone raping someone, then in that moment you will either act to help her or you won't act. We don't know what you'll do. So you might go and help her or you might not. And we don't know what the result of that is. So you're not really affected. You could go out compassionately to the woman and you could give her something. You could give her money, you could give her clothes, you could give her some consolation if you're able to. But I don't know that you will be able to unless you do it.
Okay, so it's if you face a situation like that, it's what you are moved to do what is important.
My
It's
word,
not-
that's all that matters, what you're moved to do.
Okay, it's not that you identify with that and you suffer with that person and you feel affected by the situation in a way that you are emotional. It's not
Well-
that. It's the other thing. Is that you actually, what you're seeing, what are you moved to do?
You're moved to do something for her or for the person. Like if in Afghanistan you're moved to go over there and fight with the other side or whichever side, you're moved to do that. And so you give your life, you put your life where your words are.
Yeah.
And that's what counts. But just to put your life where the television's showing you and say, oh, how horrible all this is, that's a
That's-
second-rate way
Okay.
of living. And that's where most of us live these days.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, yes, Rhoda, we've had a question. Someone who hasn't asked a question. There's a lady up there with her hand up.
My question is for my experience yesterday. When you speak about the abuse in the man to woman, and I felt in my body a thing dense here, and it's very strong for me in that moment.
What
And
was it that I said?
the abuse to woman in a child. It's the same case when a woman speaks today there.
Yes.
Yeah. When my experience is, I felt the abuse in my own life. Yesterday, in that moment, I felt the abuse, the man to woman, in my own life, in different situations. But I see that yesterday, and I see too in that moment, I don't have that anymore. And my question is, I don't know what can I do.
But if you don't have it anymore, then you don't have the problem anymore.
Yeah.
So what do you need to do about it? Nothing.
To this emotion, to this feeling in my body is very strong, and I see this, and
What do you see? I see this. What do you see?
this emotion here in my body.
Because you were sexually abused.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
So you still carry the emotion that caused in you.
Yes.
That's because you have been thinking about it. You must have thought about that, what happened to you from time to time, do you? You
Yeah.
think about it.
Yeah.
Then you cause your own suffering. Because when you think about a past event, you keep the emotion of the event alive. You give it your life, your intelligence, and you keep it alive, and therefore you keep vibrating in the emotion inside, you keep it vibrating. You must never ever think about it again. And the way to get rid of that is to say, I know, was it a man that abused you?
Yes.
I know what man is. I've been told what man is. That's if you ever hear the truth from the speaker here. I've told you what man is. Nothing is sacred to him where sex is concerned until he's transformed. And so man is going to go on abusing girls, misusing them, abusing them for the rest of time. It's never going to change because he has a sexual drive in him that is really alien to the man in him. It's a sexual possession. So he's going to keep doing it. So it is, let's say, unfortunate that you had it done to you, but then there's thousands and thousands of women have had it and will have it in the future until man is changed. And man will never change unless you women become more intelligent, where you have nothing to do with a sexually driven man.
I see the same relationship, the abuse in my own family, in the women's. The women in my family have the same relationship to men in different form, but is abused too.
The women are abused in the family by man in a different way.
Yeah.
Not sexually.
Yes. Not sexually.
In another way.
Yeah.
Because man, as I have endeavored to communicate, is always endeavoring to pull woman down, to lower her self-esteem. Do you understand me? He undermines her self-esteem. He
Yes,
tries to drag her down so that she gets more self-doubtful. When she is self-doubtful, she then looks to him for guidance, and all he does is drag her down and misuse her. That is man's sexual drive. He does that until he sees the error of his ways. And many men here have seen that error and are endeavoring to right it in themselves. But as for the general population, they're not doing much about it at all. And so, is this your first time with me?
Yes.
So you're not going to find any guru over there in Uruguay that will speak to you as I do.
No.
Yeah. Nor in many places on the face of the earth who has the self-knowledge by the grace of God that I have here. And so you can benefit by coming all this way. You must never think about the child abuse. Your family, the women in the family, have been undermined by man and abused by making them less than him. And this often happens in some countries where it seems to be a culture that the man is the boss, that the man is him. And he's no more the boss. It's just that woman has accepted his authority, his false authority. And it's such a pity, but then that's the way it is. And only you and I can make it right. And you must make sure that no man is ever allowed to undermine you, to abuse you, not sexually, but just to abuse you, to misuse you. Never. If you never speak to another man, you never allow a man to do that to you, as has been done to your family members. Because you're the hope. You're the woman. You're the only hope we've got. In that body, when you go back to Uruguay, you've got to live this on behalf of all women and not give in to man and his assumed authority. His only authority is love. When he loves, that's his authority. So I wish you well, anyway. So I'm pleased that you accept that man is like this until he changes. But you don't have to put up with him and his dishonesty unless you want to suffer. And you don't want to do that. So you have to be open to love, but not to sex. never open to sex, but always open to love. That doesn't mean that you don't have sexual love, of course not. But there has to be more love there than just the need to use you sexually. There has to be love in the man. But woman unfortunately believes him because he's such a cunning talker. He's so attractive to her when she's dying for love that she'll think it'll be all right, but it won't be all right. She has to be the intelligence which is the female, the real woman in the woman. So I trust that over these days I am communicating something of that to you. Because I am man, and I know myself, and I know the impulse of man. And gratefully, by the grace of God, it has been transformed here, I trust. So yes, there's a lady somewhere here. There was here I didn't address. Someone had a question here, was it, lady?
Thank you,
here?
Larry.
Yes, thank you.
My body has an illness. It's called ME, or chronic fatigue syndrome. And I just have a doubt in me that is this illness all medical, or is some of it recreated by myself? And
Yeah, well, I got my doubts about a lot of these new illnesses. The more the doctors know, the more ignorances they follow, like the scientists. And so, are you sure it's not the lack of love that is making you so fatigued? Because that'll make any woman or man fatigued. Lack of love.
Yes, there has been a lack of love for a number of years.
Well, you see, that's enough to make anyone fatigued, because we forget what we're here for. A woman is here to be physically loved. And not just physically loved, but be loved affectionately and acknowledged for what she is. Now, if she's not acknowledged, and if she's not acknowledged and loved physically, she starts to dry up. And the doctors, because they don't know anything about this, would have to find another exotic name for it. And you'll probably find that that's behind most of the new illnesses that we've got. Not all of them, but we've got to be very suspicious. And as you say, you've had a lack of love for years. Now, why is that? Well, it's because you haven't opened yourself for love. You're afraid. I don't know why you stopped loving, but it must have had a bad experience, did you?
There is that in me, and
Pardon?
I do see fear in me sometimes.
Why? It has to be due to the past. You must have had a bad experience. Did you?
Many.
Many, yeah. Well, that's the story,
I
isn't
don't
it?
see one in
I
particular.
understand. No, but okay, many they all add up to bad experience with man. Every woman has had bad experiences with man. All the little children, the little girls being born today, are going to have bad experiences, many bad experiences with man. I mean, it's so predictable. I can predict the future of every girl. Bad experiences with man. Because nobody's telling woman the truth, and when she is told the truth, she still falls for the nice talking man. Or she still falls for the sexual excitement or sexual pleasure. Now, you have to open yourself for love. And nobody can ever be beyond love. It doesn't matter what they look like or how old they are. It doesn't matter. If you open yourself for love, there's the possibility that man will come to you. But you have to be the woman that you are. You mustn't be afraid of love, because you are intelligent. Now, I'll say it again. I've said it 1,000 times. I'll say it again. What does a woman do when she opens herself for love? First of all, she has to have the intelligence to know that she is insecure anyway where love is concerned, because she's so desperate for it, she'll do anything for it. Then the other side of her, because of her bad experiences, says, no, I've got to be careful. I've got to be careful. These are restraints. They are not intelligent. Intelligence is to say, I am available for any man to make physical love with, as long as he loves me, and love comes before his sexual drive or sexual need for sexual satisfaction. Now you're a woman. An intelligent woman knows whether a man loves to be with her, enjoys being with her to start with, rather than wanting to masturbate in her. Being loved, she thinks the best of man. Well, it's best to think the worst of him, but still be open to him to demonstrate that he loves being with you. So you've got to be open. You've got to be loved by man, and he will come to you as long as you open yourself. But your intelligence is to know that he has to demonstrate. You don't have to teach him anything. You have to be intelligent enough to see that he is genuine, that he enjoys holding your hand, and in his touch there is a transmission or a communication that he enjoys holding your hand. He's not just trying to fuck you. He enjoys being with you. He enjoys having breakfast with you or lunch with you or whatever. He enjoys being with you. He enjoys talking to you about whatever interests you both, and especially about love. But you have to be intelligent enough to put this acid test on the situation. You've had enough lovers. You've had enough wickedness through sex. You've had enough of it. So you know what it's like. You know what it's about. Now why not be intelligent and look at the situation before your feelings get in the way and you just want to love him and you feel that he loves you. It's no good feeling that he loves you. You have to know with the knowledge of your own intelligence, because you're a woman. You are the other intelligent principle on this earth. There's only two of us. There's man and there's woman. That's the only two intelligent principles on the earth. But most women have given up for their feelings. And you can't afford to trust your feelings, because your feelings landed you in all the mistakes that you made. You went on your feelings. And fear also is a feeling. So I'm asking you to give up your feeling of fear and be intelligent enough to see whether the man is true and that he enjoys being with you. Doesn't mean that it's going to last for 10 years. You don't know how long it's going to last. But as long as he is loving you. But he can't love you if you're afraid and cut off from him. You don't give it a chance, do you? So you've got to rely on your intelligence, not your feelings. Only in that way can woman save woman and save love in this planet.